Now, coming from a Nissan LEAF, which was my first EV, one of the things I was most concerned about when getting the e-Niro was the lack of an app, because I used the app a lot. I used it for checking the state of charge and preheating the car. So as an e-Niro driver, I wanted some sort of solution. And that solution came along with OVMS, a little box of tricks that can plug into the car. And no, it doesn't do preheating, it doesn't do the preconditioning, but it does give state of charge and a lot of other things besides that. So this is my guide to OVMS, a very clever little box of tricks. So what is OVMS? Well, OVMS stands for Open Vehicle Monitoring System. And it's this little black box with some cables running out of it. Inside it, there's a SIM card. There's a Wi-Fi module, so you can connect to it. And it runs off, it doesn't have any external power source other than the car's battery. So it plugs in using something called the OBD2 port, which I didn't even know about until I started looking into all this, but that's what it looks like. And you wouldn't have even seen it probably in your car, but there's a little hidden panel. Anyway, I'll show you later. So that's what it plugs into, and this OBD2 port has been, well, these ports have been in cars since like 1996. The vast majority of cars have it. Tesla Model 3, I think, is an exception. And what it is, it's like a diagnostics port, really. The car gives lots of information about temperatures and things like that. So what can OVMS do? Well, different cars do different things. The one that I'm focused on, of course, is the e-Niro, but you'll see looking at that, there's quite a few cars there, and they are adding support for others. So from my point of view as an e-Niro driver, I can see the state of charge, the charge status. I'll get a notification if something were to stop the charge. So in other words, if the charger failed. GPS location, I can lock and unlock the vehicle. I can check the auxiliary 12-volt battery charge, which is important. I have done a video about that failing in the e-Niro, so that's important to know these things. And yes, the battery temperature as well, if that's important to anyone. I'm not sure if it is. So unfortunately, climate control, as I said, it can't be activated in the e-Niro, unfortunately. But for the cars that can, like the Nissan LEAF, well, it's great to use it, especially as this is far more reliable than the Nissan app, which is awful. It takes ages to connect, and when it does connect, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it'll randomly forget your username and password. It's just awful. And the good news is that OVMS is instant. So as for the 12-volt battery state of charge, that's really useful because it does drain. Especially I have first-hand knowledge of this. It does drain, and sometimes the car won't start if it gets too low, and and then you'll need to jump start it. So having something like OVMS, although it does draw on the 12-volt battery itself, it's a tiny amount, and it's still good to have it because it will give you a notification if it starts to drop too much, and then it will tell you again if the car has topped it back up, which is what should happen, and it's what the Kia should do, and it does most of the time, but not always. So that's just scratching the surface of what's possible with it. One of the best things about OVMS is that it's open source, and I'd never really appreciated just how important open source was, despite the fact I'm a web developer. So actually I use open source all the time because it's usually feature rich, and it's normally, well, it's always free, in fact. And so that's the wonderful thing about open source, is that, you know, you've got all these enthusiastic people doing it out of the love of it. And OVMS is no exception because, for instance, I did a video about a better route planner, and a guy called David Arnold went on there and he wrote a comment saying, well, I've just written a plugin actually that links OVMS up to a better route planner. So you would be driving along and you would get live data from OVMS. And well, that's fantastic, isn't it? So he just puts it on GitHub, and there it is for us all to play with. And I still haven't tried it, but I will next time I go on a long journey. That's what's just wonderful about open source. So for the price, it's not a cheap box. It's about $170 to £170. For that, you get the box itself and you get the cables that plug into it. You have to choose the correct cable for your car as well, and there's guidance on the website about which you should choose. You could get it without the GPS antenna if you wanted, but it's only a few pounds extra, so I would include that myself. OVMS is available from two resellers. The first is fasttech.com and the other is openenergymonitor.org, which is best if you're based in Europe. I would recommend using them if you're in Europe, because you need to make sure that you get the one that's right for your area, and the frequency bands differ in America and Europe. The other cost to think about, of course, is data. It comes with a SIM card for hologram. Hologram's a fantastic network, but you can actually swap that out and put in anything else if you want. The other lovely thing is that you get $5 off with OVMS if you type in OVMS as a promo code. It's 40 cents per megabyte, so I used 2 megabytes in January, for that's kind of average usage really. So that makes 80 cents, 62 pence, 73 euro cents. So how does it work? Well, once it's plugged in to your car, then you just use it. You just use the app that's on iOS and Android, and it's free to download, of course. You use it just as you would an app from Tesla, Renault or Nissan, with the advantage in Nissan's case that this app actually works. So I hope you can tell I really like OVMS, and so now it's the fiddly part of actually getting it set up. It takes a while. Okay, so what I would recommend is get a cup of tea, just sit down, relaxed, and just go through it. In fact, go through the instructions, because the instructions online are very good. Go to docs.openvehicles.com, but feel free to just follow this video just so you can see roughly what's involved. Here we go. Let's get stuck into the OVMS installation. So this is the OVMS box. This is what you get if you order it. You'll get the box like this, and then you'll get some leads that have to connect to it. So first of all, let's look at what's in the box. All that is this small black box. Here we have a plug that goes to obviously it goes to the vehicle. You can see it says vehicle there. We have GPS and GSM. They're the antennae that you need to put on there. You've got the USB plug there that goes to the computer, a micro SD card slot, and then a diagnostics port, which, to be honest, I have no idea about. So that's it. There's quite a lot of tech going on in that little box. So let's plug some stuff into it. First of all, let's put in the lead that would go to the car then. So it looks like this on the end that goes to the car. That's the OBD2 port. Looks like a SCART lead if you're old enough to remember them. And that's the plug that goes into the box here. So let's just put that in there. These days, of course, we're so used to USB ports and things like that, but this is what everything used to look like in the good old days. When I was young, I didn't have grey hair. All right, so the next thing that I'll show you here is the GPS antenna. Now, you might not have this. In fact, you might not want to order it. It's only a few pounds or dollars extra. I think it's great to have. So, but you don't need it. So if you don't want it, don't get it. But in this case, I'm going to plug it in here. So we take off the red cap for GPS and put that in there. And obviously make sure you get the GPS and the GSM antenna in the correct plugs, because otherwise things don't work. So that's that one. And it's it's a pretty good sized lead, so you've got plenty of room to put it in the car wherever you want. Now the next one is that, and this is the GSM antenna. This has some sticky back tape on there, so you can stick that wherever you want. So GSM goes in there. And that's it. So that's everything that you would have received from your order. The next step is to give it some power by plugging it into a USB power supply, or in my case, into the computer. And for that, this is a lead that you will have to get yourself, but you've probably got one lying around. Just a simple USB lead going to one of these micro USB ports. And so that obviously goes in to there. And now we'll plug that into our computer and get set up. There are a few hoops we have to jump through first though, including creating a few passwords. So get yourself a password manager if you haven't already. Let's create an account on the Open Vehicles website and register the vehicle. So go to openvehicles.com and then click on Create New Account. If you're in Europe, you can also go through this process on dexters-web.de. That's in both German and English languages. Although from now on, I'll keep referring to openvehicles.com because that's the one I used. So enter your username and email address, your vehicle type, and you can tick whatever subscriptions you want. Click on Create New Account, and then you'll get a confirmation email come through. You'll have to click that link to confirm your account, and then you can log in, and then it's time to create a new password. I really do recommend using a password manager, otherwise trying to remember all these passwords will become a nightmare. So with that done, you're now ready to add your vehicle to the OVMS server. We'll need this for using the app. So first you want to click the Vehicles tab and register an open vehicle, and here you want to enter your vehicle ID. So that's that's my registration number, it's whatever you put in before. And a nickname, you can be imaginative if you want. I'm just writing Kia e-Niro in here. Another password bit to fill in, and obviously make sure you do what I do here and use a password manager. Since we're adding the server password here, it's worth writing server on the password manager so you don't get it confused with the module password, which is what we'll be adding later. Your vehicle is now registered on the OVMS server. This is the documentation, so I kept this open while I was doing all of this because it's really worth just looking at it. Even if you're following this video, do check out the documentation as well, because it's obviously more current than this video is going to be. Also, you can click the links that it's got on it, and it gives you more tips, and it goes into far more detail, obviously, than I am on this video. So now we have the OVMS server account, we can get the box set up. It should be plugged into a USB port, although it's worth pointing out it should be powered. It has to be a powered port. So that means if you're plugging into a dongle into your computer, it might not work if the dongle is not powered. So in that case, plug it into a wall using a USB charger. So if it's plugged in, we should be able to connect to it using Wi-Fi. Go to your Wi-Fi connections menu and you find the one that says OVMS. So once you click that, it will come up with the password. You have to type in OVMS in uppercase and then init, I-N-I-T. Join that. Next, you'll need to access the control panel of OVMS. And I'm clicking the link here from the documentation, but you can also just type in 192.168.4.1 in your web browser. Press the Start Setup Now button. And first we have to secure the module by giving it, yes, you guessed it, another password. So enter your module ID, again that's my registration number in this case, and then add a password. And again, add it to the password manager, and if you do that, make sure you write module on it so you know which one is the module and which one is the server. I mean, if you wanted to, you could of course make the module password the same as the server password if that makes it easier. At this point, you're going to lose the connection, so give it a moment, and then if you look in your Wi-Fi menu, you'll see that it changes from OVMS to your registration number. So make sure you fill in the password. You get that from your password manager, obviously. I know I keep going on about it, but you do need them. Reload the page and then enter your details. These are the module details, not the server details. Now it needs to connect to the Wi-Fi so it can get any updates it needs to. So put in your Wi-Fi network information and then press proceed, and then it's going to test the internet connection. Hopefully it will be okay. And then you've got to log into it again. and then it's going to look to see if it's got any updates. So press proceed on whichever server is relevant for you. And in this case, you see it's found a firmware update for me, so it's downloading all of that. And this can take a little while depending on how quick your internet is. Press reboot now. That then takes a little while to reboot, and then you might lose connection again. If you do, then just find it again in the Wi-Fi menu. And then the window will reload, and you'll have to enter your module details again. Next, we need to tell it what vehicle we have. So all the vehicles that it supports are listed in the vehicle type drop-down. You can choose whichever one relates to yours, of course. I'm going to go Kia Niro and Hyundai Kona, because they're effectively the same car. Distance, obviously kilometers, miles, whichever is relevant for you. Vehicle ID should already be in there. And then the server password, yep, you got to enter that again. And then press proceed. Now it's going to test if everything is all okay, if it's set up okay. There should be a vehicle module, and it should be able to connect to the server, and here it has. So press keep and proceed. Now we're going to enter the modem details. So power the modem on, because it will come up with the SIM card number, and you need that in a moment. And then press enable modem. These other bits here you can leave. So we have one more account to set up now, and another password to save. This time it's for Hologram. Hologram is the cellular network provider that it uses as default with the SIM already installed in OVMS. Hologram's actually great. It's been chosen because it jumps between any GSM network in Europe to find the strongest connection, so that means it has a better coverage than any single operator would. Of course, if you don't want to use Hologram, you can just open up the box and put in whatever SIM card you want. So we need to get that working in order for OVMS to send data from the car. Go to dashboard.hologram.io in a new tab or window. Make sure you keep your OVMS console open, as you'll need some info from it in a moment. Click on Create One link at the bottom, as in create a new account. Then add all your user info, and there's another password to remember, of course. So get yourself that password manager. For who is your project for, select just me, and then tick the terms, create account. And that's your Hologram account created. What we now need to do is link it to the SIM card in your OVMS box. So you need to click on Activate Your First SIM, which is that button on the top right. You'll then get a verification email, which of course you'll need to click the link in and then log back into here. And once that's done, you'll get this screen where you can choose your edition. So you'll be the first one. It's confusingly called Maker, but you're not a maker, you're a user, obviously, but don't let that worry you too much. Once that's selected, press Select Edition, which is the button at the top right. You shouldn't find there's any need to set a data limit, but if you find it's costing you too much, you could go back and set that. Now press Select Plan, and now you'll need to add your SIM. So go across to your OVMS console and find your SIM number in the modem settings section, copy that, go back to Hologram and paste it into the SIM number box, and press Add. So there's nothing more you need to do on this page, so you can click on the Continue with One SIM button. And then next up we have some billing information. You get 1 megabyte of data for free every month. Anything above that will get charged to a credit card that you can add in a moment. Check if you want auto refill to be enabled. If it is, you can set how much credit you add once the balance drops below a certain amount. Click on Add Payment Method and enter your details, and then when that's done, press Update. And if that works, you can then click on the Continue with Autofill button on the top right. You'll get a page you can review your information, so have a look through that and then click on Pay and Activate. You'll now be told your device is being activated, and it will give you an APN access point name of Hologram, which is actually already set in the OVMS settings. So press APN is set, and then it will take a little bit of time to activate, so let's use the opportunity to enter that voucher code that we got from OVMS. You can click all of these pages in Hologram yourself to get acquainted with what it offers, but for now, let's just go to Billing and then Apply Promo Code, and then enter OVMS, and you'll see you get an extra $5 balance. Lovely. If you click back to the Devices page, you should now see that the device status is live. That means we should be able to finish the OVMS setup. So go back to the OVMS console, and you should see Hologram already set as the APN. If it is, press Proceed. OVMS will now test that everything's working correctly. And if it all looks good, press keep and proceed. That's it, we finished. Setup is complete. So feel free to just click around the screen, click on all the menus, because there's quite a lot to look at really. There's the dashboard, which doesn't obviously do very much unless it's plugged into the car, which it isn't at the moment. Loads of status that you can look at there. You can really geek out looking through all of these menus. Under the Tools menu, there's Shell and Editor. That's pretty fancy stuff. And then under Config, you've got pages for pretty much everything. So you can tweak some of the options we set already, like the vehicle you can see there. 12-volt monitor. Now this is a good one. So the reading at the moment is 0 because it's not plugged into the car. If you test the actual voltage in your car, then you can then set that here so it calibrates it. And you'll see there are two boxes, 12-volt reference and the alert threshold. So if the alert threshold, which is currently set to 1.6, if it gets to 1.6 volts below the reference, you'll get an alert. In other words, 11 volts. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I'm really just scratching the surface. There's so much you can do on here. And if you're so inclined, really, you can tweak pretty much every option you can think of. So again, I would just recommend you go through the documentation, have a good look through all these menus, because there might be something that applies to you, and just have fun playing around with it and enjoy the flexibility of something that's open source like this. So I hope all that's clear enough, and if you're following along, you've managed to set up your box. Next, we're going to get away from the computer and get outside and into the car. So the easiest part of OVMS is actually plugging it into the car. So you just got to find the OBD panel like this. It's on the right of the steering wheel on right-hand drive cars. I'm guessing it would be on the left of left-hand drive, although I'm not definite about that. And the lead that you should have bought with OVMS looks like that, and you've got to make sure you get the right one for the car. In the Kia, it's the left one. And left just means that's where this lead bit comes out. It wouldn't fit if it was that way around. It wouldn't fit. It does if it's that way around. So plug it in. It actually kind of goes upside down. But you plug it in, and it's as simple as that, and then you've just got to find a place to put it. So unfortunately you can't put this back on once the lead is in. This doesn't go. That there looks like it might just fit in there, but it doesn't. And I don't want to force it. And as for all of this, I just put it in the side pocket here. It's just about too big to fit in there. As it is, I just leave it with this panel off. So yes, it does look ugly, but you're getting great functionality in the car. One option would be to get some Velcro and find a place to put it that looks a little bit neater. But I'm a messy kind of guy, so I just leave it on the top. So you've got the module all set up, it's plugged into your car, so now it's time for the fun bit, and that's actually getting the app working. Download it from Google Play if you have an Android device, or the App Store if you have an iOS device. It works much the same for both, I believe, although the Android version seems to get features a little bit sooner than the iPhone. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the settings screen, and you'll see that you've got a demonstration car there. So if you want to click around, you can. That's a Tesla Roadster. So you can click around and see all the kind of stuff that it does if you want, before diving in and adding your own. Okay, so I'm going to add the Niro. So the first thing we have to type in is the vehicle ID. In my case, that's the registration number. So GL19 TSV. Vehicle label, that's where we type in whatever we want to call it in the app. Obviously you can have multiple cars in here, so if you're lucky enough to have more than one EV, you can add them in here. Server password, this is where I need to refer to my password manager because I never remember the passwords. Copy that, okay, and put that in there, okay, and then the module password. Back to 1Password. I don't remember what life was like before 1Password. It's a wonderful app. So do get it. In fact, if you haven't got it already, because remembering passwords is a nightmare, and you should have different passwords for every service. Okay, so after you've done that, then you select your car and the color of it. So I'm going to go with my grey Niro. And that's all there is to it. If you click the back button, then you've got the demonstration car, and then you've got whatever car you've just added. So let's click on status on the bottom left, and you'll see that it's got a little P icon on the top left. That means it's been parked for 7 hours 18 minutes. On the top right it says live. That means it's got a connection. So at the bottom you see you've got the big battery, obviously saying 52%. I mean, it's difficult to say just how important it is to actually know your battery. It's such a wonderful thing. To know the state of charge when you're out and about and you can't actually look in the car is wonderful, especially when you're charging. So if you click on the battery, you've got things like this, charger settings, which I'm not going to change because frankly I don't understand it all. And it does tell you incorrect charger settings will blow up your car, will damage electric systems, it won't blow up your car. So below the battery you've got ideal range and you've got estimated range. Ideal range is what OVMS assume you'll get out of it. I think it's kind of like a worst case scenario. Estimated range is worked out on the last 20 journeys you've done over 1 kilometer. So it works out as an average based on that. I believe some cars, they can actually get the actual estimated range from it, but that's how it works it out. So now let's click on the car icon at the bottom, and you'll see this is the car from above. On the top left, it's a very important one that says 12.1 volts. That is your auxiliary 12-volt battery. So that tells you what that's charged to. If it starts getting anywhere close to 10, then you need to panic, and you should get a notification. In fact, when it gets under, I think it's 11. When it gets under that, then you'll get a notification on your phone, and it will say, by the way, it's not looking good. And hopefully your car will kick in at that point anyway, and will charge it back up. What you've also got on here is the tire pressures, and you've got the battery, motor, whatever else. You've also got that little glum looking man there with a little bow tie. That's valet mode. And you've obviously got the lock icon there. You can unlock and lock it. You've also got HomeLink, which I don't really know very much about, but my Niro doesn't support that anyway, but they do in America. So that's that screen. If we go to location, you'll see where the car is currently parked, and you'll also see that you can find chargers as well. So let's click on the one nearest me. Whitefriars car park, yep, which is a rubbish charger. It's just a normal plug. So that's location, and then down the bottom we've also got messages. Now this is a bit confusing. When you first look at the app, you think messages, what? And it means you can message the module in the car, and you can get information back. If it's kind of techie mode, I suppose. And if you want to find out what you can type in there, just do a question mark. And it'll ping the module, and then it will come back with all the things that you can type in. So these are all the commands that you can type in. And frankly, I know nothing about any of this. This is kind of that's like deep dive territory. Go on the internet and find out what you can do. And then finally, we've got settings again, and you can obviously remove them. You can also click on that little eye icon. You can get lots of other information, like the server and app version numbers, all that kind of thing. Now when you plug it in, it will come up with, it will say how long it will take to charge, to charge up, and you'll be able to click on that, and you can stop the charge if you want, or in fact stop or start it. So if it's plugged in and not charging, you could start it using the app. So that's it really. It's all relatively simple, but it's also extremely useful, and I love having it. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found it interesting. and do comment on this video if you've got any questions or things that you want me to look at particularly. And do go onto the forum, the openvehicles.com forum, because they're extremely responsive, and they're all enthusiastic and happy to help if you have any questions at all. Do subscribe, press the like button, press the bell icon if you want to be notified of my next videos, and I'll speak to you very soon. Okay, bye for now.